I came back home after a long deployment. For the first time in months, I finally saw my wife alone. It should have felt like relief. But deep inside, I knew something was different. Her eyes, the same eyes that once lit up with joy, that once waited for me with love, were now cold. They barely looked at me at all. At first, I tried to convince myself that it was just stress, that maybe she was tired, maybe life without me had worn her down. But the truth was too clear to ignore. She was always holding her phone, always texting, smiling at the screen in ways she no longer smiled at me. Sometimes she would leave the house without warning. When I asked where she was going, her answers were vague. Just meeting a friend, or, I need to pick up something. And then she'd come back with gifts. Expensive perfumes, jewelry, a new handbag. I knew she didn't have the money for those things. And she never explained. At night, when she thought I was asleep, I would hear the soft buzzing of her phone. I could see the faint glow of the screen under the blanket. Her fingers typing, fast and excited. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to him. Whoever he was. One evening, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until she dressed up to go shopping. Her hair was done. Her lipstick perfect. She looked beautiful, but not for me. I stayed behind, waited a few minutes, and then followed her quietly. My heart was racing. Every step felt like betrayal, but I needed to know. I needed the truth. She walked fast as if she were late for something. Her heels clicked against the pavement, echoing through the quiet street. Then she stopped. A sleek black car pulled up, and sitting inside was a man I had never seen before. The door opened. She got in without hesitation. And right there in front of me they embraced. They kissed. It wasn't a friendly kiss. It was the kind of kiss that said, "I've missed you." The kind of kiss that said, "You're the one I want." And in that moment, it felt like my whole world collapsed. I stood frozen on the sidewalk, watching the woman I had loved for years melt into the arms of another man. A man who clearly had everything I didn't: money, power, confidence. They drove away, leaving me in the dark. But the image of her smile, her hands wrapped around him, it burned in my mind like fire. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene over and over. Her laughter. The way she looked at him. It was the same way she used to look at me. And now it belonged to someone else. That's when the anger began to grow. At first it was quiet. A whisper in my chest. But soon it became a storm. And I swore to myself, before I leave her forever, I will make her regret every single lie. The next morning I pretended nothing had happened. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, while she moved around the house like nothing was wrong. She hummed to herself. She even smiled at me. But I could see it. The lie behind her eyes. Every time her phone buzzed, she turned her back to me. Every time I asked who it was, she brushed me off. Just a friend. Work stuff. Don't worry about it. But I did worry. Because I knew. That day I made my decision. If she thought she could play me for a fool, then I would play my own game. I started small. Checking her bag when she showered. Looking through the receipts she carelessly left on the counter. Luxury restaurants. Gifts I never received. Dinners for two, not one. The more I looked, the more it hurt. But with every discovery, the anger inside me sharpened. It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. One evening, when she said she was meeting a friend, I followed her again. This time I kept my distance. Streetlights cast long shadows as I moved silently behind her, careful not to be seen. And then I saw him. The same man. Tall, expensive suit, driving the kind of car I could never afford. He stepped out, opened the door for her like she was his queen. And she laughed like a teenager in love. That laughter was a knife in my chest. I watched them drive away again. But this time I didn't stand frozen. I wrote down his license plate. That night I couldn't stop thinking about him. Who was he? What did he have that I didn't? So I found out. I spent days tracking him. Asking around. Watching. Turns out he wasn't just some random guy. He was wealthy. Respected. A businessman with more money than I could ever dream of. And my wife. She was his new prize. I realized something brutal. In her eyes, I was nothing compared to him. She wanted the gifts, the trips, the lifestyle. Not me. But instead of breaking me, that truth fueled me. I told myself, if she loves money so much, then money will be the very weapon I use against her. I started planning. Not for a fight. Not for screaming or begging or asking her why. No, I was planning something colder. Smarter. Crueler. I wanted her to feel the emptiness she left inside me. I wanted her to taste betrayal the way I had. And most of all, I wanted her to regret ever choosing him over me. That was the night my plan for revenge was born. The next morning I acted like the perfect husband. I kissed her cheek when she woke up. I asked if she wanted coffee. I smiled when she laughed at her phone. Inside, though, my mind was racing. Every gesture she made, every secretive glance at her messages, it all fueled me. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because confrontation was weak. Revenge needed patience. I started keeping a journal. Every lie she told me, I wrote it down. Every time she went out, I noted the date, the time, the excuse. And when she came home smelling of perfume that wasn't hers, with lipstick slightly smudged, I wrote that down too. Piece by piece, I was building a map of her betrayal. But I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was studying her, testing her. One evening, I casually asked, "Want me to drive you to your friend's house tonight?" Her eyes widened for a second. Then she forced a smile. "Oh no, don't worry, it's really close. I'll just walk." That smile, it told me everything. She was lying straight to my face, and I smiled back. "All right. Be safe." That night after she left, I followed again. But this time I stayed far behind. I already knew where she was going. The same car. The same man. But what I saw next was worse than any kiss. They didn't just drive to a hotel. They drove to his home. A mansion lit up against the night sky. She stepped inside like she belonged there. Like she had already moved on from me. I clenched my fists, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to storm in, drag her out, scream until the whole world heard. But no. That would make me look desperate. Weak. Instead, I pulled out my phone. I took pictures. Her walking into his house. Her holding his hand. Cold, undeniable proof. And as I stood there, watching from the shadows, I whispered to myself, "You think you've won. But this is only the beginning. You have no idea what's coming." The next days felt like a strange performance. Every time she came home, I smiled. Every time she lied, I nodded, pretending to believe. Inside, though, I was building something far greater. I started moving money into a separate account. I bought a second phone she didn't know about. I even began recording our conversations when she wasn't paying attention. Slowly, I was creating a weapon. Not a gun. Not a knife. But something far more dangerous. The truth. Then came the night that changed everything. She told me she was going to visit her sister. I wished her a safe trip, kissed her goodbye, and watched as she walked out the door with her overnight bag. The second she left, I followed. Her car pulled away and I kept a safe distance. She didn't go to her sister's. She didn't even leave town. She went straight to his house again. But this time, she stayed. The lights inside glowed all night. And through the window I could see them, laughing, drinking, touching like newlyweds. That's when the truth hit me like a thunderclap. I wasn't just the man she cheated on. I was the man she had already replaced. I sat in my car until sunrise, staring at that house, my jaw tight, my fists trembling. And I made myself a promise. If she thought life with him was better, then I'd show her what it means to lose everything. Not just love. Not just marriage. But comfort, trust, and safety itself. I whispered into the steering wheel. "You chose him. You chose money. You chose betrayal. Now I choose revenge." And in that moment, I stopped being her husband. I became something else entirely. The man she would never forget. The first step of revenge is patience. I knew if I struck too early, she would play the victim. She would run to him, crying, begging for his protection. And in his mansion with his money, she would be safe. No, I had to cut the ground from under her feet first. So I began my silent war. Every time she left the house, I followed. I memorized the license plate of his car. I traced his address. I even found out where he worked, a glossy glass skyscraper downtown. Piece by piece, I built a profile of the man she betrayed me for. And then I dug deeper. At night, while she slept, I checked her phone. She was careless, she never changed her passwords. Inside, I found everything, the texts, the pictures, the promises. He called her his queen. She told him she never truly loved me. That she wasted years with me. I read those words over and over, until they burned into my skull. And instead of breaking me, they forged me. The next morning, I smiled at her like nothing had changed. I cooked breakfast, kissed her goodbye, and waved as she left. But as soon as the door shut, I copied every single message and sent them to my secret phone. A library of betrayal. Evidence that one day would destroy her. Step 2 was isolation. I stopped giving her money. At first, she didn't notice. But when she asked me for cash for groceries, and I handed her only half of what she expected, I saw the flicker of irritation in her eyes. She thought she could run to her lover for help. Good. That was the point. The deeper she went into his arms, the harder the fall would be when he let her down. And I was going to make sure he would let her down. Because men like him, wealthy, arrogant, addicted to the thrill of stealing someone else's wife, they never stay. They never commit. They just use. And when he was finished with her, she'd come crawling back. But by then I wouldn't be the man she remembered. One night I stood by the window watching her drive away again. My phone buzzed with a new message, one of their conversations. She wrote, "I think I'm ready to leave him for good. He doesn't make me feel alive the way you do." And he replied, "Then do it. I'll take care of you." I laughed out loud, because I knew the truth. Sooner or later men like him grow tired. And when he did, she would have nothing. I leaned back in the shadows of my living room, whispering to myself, "Enjoy it while it lasts, because when the ground disappears beneath your feet, you'll know who pulled it away." The opportunity came faster than I expected. She left her laptop open one evening while taking a shower. Normally she was careful, but this time her guard slipped. And there it was. Her emails. Not just to him, but to a lawyer. She had already asked about divorce. About splitting assets. She was preparing to walk away from me and take half of everything I worked for. My chest burned. She wasn't only betraying me in love. She was betraying me in survival. I copied every file, every message, every secret she thought was safe. And then I decided it was time to strike. The next day while she was with him, I sent him an anonymous package. Inside, printed screenshots of her conversations with me, where she pretended to be the faithful wife. Her photos from family dinners. Her words about how she could never leave me yet. I wanted him to see the contradiction. I wanted him to doubt her. Because once doubt enters a man's mind, trust dies. That night she came home late. Her makeup was smudged, her smile tired. I asked nothing. I simply looked at her and said, "Long day." She froze, just for a second. Then forced a smile and whispered, "Yeah, just work." But I could see it in her eyes. Something was wrong. Over the next week things began to shift. Her messages with him grew shorter. He stopped calling her late at night. And one evening she stormed into the house, slamming the door, her face pale with rage. "He thinks I'm lying to him," she shouted, pacing across the room. "He says I'm still too attached to you, that I can't be trusted." I just stared at her, silent. Inside I was smiling. The trap was working. But then she made her biggest mistake. In her anger, she turned to me, her husband, the man she had betrayed, and said, "You don't understand. He's different. He's real. You could never compare to him." The words cut like knives. But they didn't break me. They sharpened me. That night, as she cried herself to sleep, I whispered into the darkness, "You chose him over me. Now he doubts you. And soon, you'll have no one." Her world was crumbling. And I was the architect of the ruins. The wealthy stranger who once made her glow with excitement now barely answered her calls. When they met, it always ended in arguments. I knew why, because every doubt I planted had taken root. He didn't trust her anymore. And a relationship without trust is already dead. Meanwhile, I prepared my final move. I gathered every file, every message, every photo. Not only the ones between her and him, but also the emails to her lawyer. The proof that she planned to rob me blind. I stored it all on a drive labeled, "Truth." One morning I sat her down at the kitchen table. Her eyes were tired, restless. She thought I hadn't noticed her misery, but I had. I slid the drive across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "Your life," I replied. She plugged it into her laptop, and as the files opened, I watched her face drain of color. Her secrets, her lies, all of it, exposed. How did you?" she stammered. "I know everything," I cut her off coldly. "Every word, every kiss, every plan. You thought I was blind. But I was awake the whole time." Her lips trembled. Tears filled her eyes. "Please, I didn't mean." But I leaned forward, my voice sharp as a blade. "You meant every word. And now, you'll pay for them." I didn't scream. I didn't strike her. No, that would have been too easy. Revenge isn't about anger. It's about control. That evening, while she sobbed in the bedroom, I sent the files. To her family. To her friends. To her job. Every mask she wore, ripped off in one night. The final blow came when I called the wealthy man himself. I didn't hide my number. I wanted him to know who I was. She's all yours, I told him calmly. But before you keep her, you should know exactly who she is. And then I sent him everything. There was silence on the line. Then a single word. Thanks. And the call ended. Within a week she was destroyed. Her family disowned her. Her friends abandoned her. Her lover blocked her number. And when she finally turned to me, the husband she had betrayed, her voice was a whisper of the woman she once pretended to be. Please, don't leave me. You're all I have. I looked at her. The woman who once thought I was disposable. The woman who traded loyalty for luxury. The woman who believed I was weak. And I said only one thing. You had everything. And you threw it away. Now, live with nothing. Then I walked out the door. The night air was cold against my face. But inside I felt fire. Because revenge wasn't about making her suffer. It was about reminding her, and myself, that I was not the fool she thought I was. And as I disappeared into the darkness, I whispered to myself, game over.